Greetings, Blade Bias. Welcome back to everyone, and welcome back to a very backwards Blade Bias video. I'm flipping with my left hand today, which means that not only is my flipping going to be bad, but my framing is going to be bad, and I'm still holding my camera, which is annoying me to no end. Today I want to talk about something pretty interesting to me, although it could end up being a giant nothing burger because everyone's like, Ethan, what the hell are you talking about? I've never felt this in my life. I want to talk to some of my ambidextrous flippers out there. I know you guys exist. I know they're rarer. I know not everyone focuses on flipping in their offhand. I personally don't. Like, I don't really sit down and drill tricks in my offhand. Most of the... There's drop number one. That's going to happen a lot. Most of the skill that I have in my offhand is just from idly flipping while I'm, like, sitting at my desk, because all of my free space is over here on my left side. I can't really flip on my right side because it's just bed here. And it's the same thing with my PC at home. If I flip in my left hand, then I'm no longer flipping over the actual tower of my PC, which is, preferable. So all of my ambidextrous flipping knowledge is just me idly flipping while at my computer doing homework or something like that in my offhand. But I've noticed something pretty interesting over the past few months. And I want to see if any of the other people who kind of flip in their ambidextrous hand, in their offhand, feel the same thing. I've noticed that my preferences in my left hand don't match the preferences of my right hand. And more specifically, it's kind of like delayed. It's kind of like my old preferences in my offhand. And it's really, really strange. And I want to see if anyone else feels that way. And if not, I want to give you an insight into how my brain works when I flip, I guess. Because maybe no one else feels this way, and I'm just a ranting, crazy person who isn't making much sense. So normally, I prefer neutral, maybe even like a tiny bit of blade bias, tiny bit of handle bias balisongs. Perfect example of that, Superfly with no weights. Not a ton of end weight. It feels very neutral. It feels very nice. It still carries enough momentum, but it just overall doesn't feel very handle biased. I'm not a huge fan of handle bias, as you guys know. But when I flip in my offhand, this feels fine. The Superfly feels like fine, but because I'm dropping it so much, I find that I don't enjoy it that much. Like, I kind of feel the way about the Superfly that I do about any handle bias product. It's like, yeah, I can enjoy the handle bias, but I would prefer if it wasn't there. It's like, yeah, my offhand can feel the neutrality, but I would prefer if it wasn't there. And that kind of manifests itself really perfectly with my Nemesis, a balisong that used to be like my favorite thing ever, but nowadays is something that I don't really find myself enjoying that much, just because it has a little too much handle weight than I prefer nowadays. But my offhand absolutely loves it. It feels perfect. Same with something like maybe my Kraken trainer or my Orion V1 trainer, more handle bias knives that, like, my main hand, I could take it or leave it, but my offhand absolutely eats it up. And it's so interesting because it's, like I said, it's about where my preferences used to lie, like maybe a year or two ago. So I'm wondering, A, if other people have the same feeling, like if you flip with both of your hands. Not a lot of people do. I know how easy it is to be like, oh, why would I train my offhand when I can just get better in the hand that I'm actually good at? I get that. I would actually like to start drilling in my offhand. I've been doing more like transfer style stuff, and I feel like I would get a lot more use out of that if I actually started flipping in my main or in my offhand. I'm also realizing just how bad my offhand is at flipping and how bad my main hand is at recording, because this framing is changing by the second, and I can't do anything about it. My arm is moving on its own. Anyway, so I'm wondering if A, other people have a similar experience, but I'm also wondering if maybe it's just generally due to the fact that my skill in my offhand is about where I was like a year or two ago. Like, maybe that skill preference, or maybe that preference is coming from the lack of skill. Because generally with the balisong hobby, what you find is that beginners tend to prefer handle bias, and we usually recommend handle bias to beginners because it makes a lot of the beginner tricks easier. It makes chaplains easier. It makes rollovers easier. A lot of the stuff that you're going to be learning in your first, let's say, month of flipping is going to be something that heavily benefits from handle bias. And it's kind of the reason that I liked handle bias so much going into it, because everything that I did felt better with it. I was doing like, the Valorant combo, rollovers, stuff like that. I wasn't really doing the fans and the choker fans and all of that I do today and that I prefer to do today. So I'm wondering if maybe that's it. Maybe it is just genuinely that your left hand's controlled by a different part of your brain. There's something science like that. I don't know, man. It's too deep into finals week for me to start being smart about the human brain. Especially about something that I don't know very well. But controlled by a different part of your brain, maybe it literally does just have different preferences. Maybe my left hand, certain things feel better in it that wouldn't feel good in my main hand because that's just what it's used to. But I'm kind of wondering if maybe it's the lack of skill. Maybe it's because my skill in my offhand is about where it was, like physically, mechanically, if you will. My hand is where I was like a year ago. Because mentally, I'm obviously as good as I am now because I know I can do all these tricks, but I just can't physically make my hand do them. Like one really good example of that is the fan to choker fan that I always do. I can't do that for crap in my offhand. I know what I'm supposed to do and I can kind of get it like I kind of just did right there, but it's not consistent. So I don't know. It's a very interesting thing. Is that because it's just, that's just how the brain works? It's a different part of my body. It has a different preference. Or is it because it's physically less skilled? Or maybe even, why is Ethan talking about his hand like it has a mind of its own? I mean, it kind of feels like it does, like it just, I don't know. I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but it just can't do it. But at the same time, some ballad songs, like I tell you what, I'll be flipping over here at my desk. I'll pick something up and I'll flip it over here. And I'll be like, wow, this thing feels like perfect. Like this fits my preferences perfectly. I love this. And then I get up and I flip it in my main hand and I'm like, oh, no, it does not. Nope. Not even close. Like the Nemesis. Like I'm really enjoying flipping this right now. And if I switch over to my main hand, like I will still enjoy it, but I will not enjoy it as much. Yeah, I just don't enjoy it as much. It feels a little bit more, it feels more unruly than I would really like a ballad song to feel because of how much like momentum and handle bias it has. But I don't know, man. The second you put it into the offhand, it feels perfect. So yeah, let me know. Let me know if I'm an absolute crazy person or if you feel the same thing. Or maybe go try it for yourself. Maybe go try and flip something in your offhand until you get good enough to really be able to like feel. Because you can't just like, if you've never flipped in your offhand before, you probably won't feel what I'm talking about because, beginners can't really know their preference because they're not experienced enough to like quantify what their preference is. But if you're good enough to like actually flip okay, like you see how I'm not flipping amazing in my offhand, but I can flip well enough to know what my preferences are. Or do you have the same thing, or am I just an absolute ranting crazy psychopath right now? You decide in the comments. And yeah, until then, I'm like a few days away from getting my head mount back, and I'm so excited for that so I can finally start. I have so many things on the back burner. I know I have said I'm going to make so many videos that I haven't made yet. I was planning on making them, and then I left my head mount, and now I don't want to do these videos without a head mount. Like, I want to talk about the new IAMs that I got. I want to do some bonus biases like on this this slip that I've been using for a little bit now. But I don't want to do that without the head mount. It's just not fun. Anyway, thanks all for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.